True inner peace doesn't come from reaching our money goals or our business goals. Even though that brings a real level of satisfaction and pride, it is not enough on the long term. The reason for that is that to create a real sense of peace, your nervous system must be used to bask in that energy of success and joy without freaking out. That's why most of us entrepreneurs get really scared when we reach a new milestone or when we reach our highest month in business or even when we have a small win. It's because we're conditioned for struggle, for hustle, and for survival mode. To be honest, it's not just entrepreneurs. Based on society's expectation, most of us are just wired to operate in the standard way, in the survival mode, and that's the only thing that we're used to and thought in life. But there is so much healing and so many doors open up when we start healing those old stories, and that's usually when our business just takes off because we're not afraid anymore that after a big win our business is going to crash or something is going to go wrong, or we're not afraid to take a month off knowing that their business is going to run smoothly. So no matter where you are right now in your business journey, I want to give you some tools today to start seeing like how the conditioning of this survival mode may be affecting not only your well-being but also your business, and how we can slowly start deconditioning our nervous system so that we can invite more ease in our business. So welcome back to Women Think Bigger. I'm Sonia, and in this space we explore business from a holistic point of view, using mindset, energy work, body wisdom, and business strategy to not only help you create your dream business, but also sustain it in a way that feels successful for you in the long term. So at the core of the survival mode, there's this deep sense or this deep belief that is ingrained in us that if things are easy, they are less worthy somehow. They're less valuable because they're not earned. You may have even caught yourself telling stories to people of how you got a certain job, how you achieved something, telling people that it was hard for you to get there because there is this sense of perseverance, of effort that makes us feel good. And if you tell the same story to people saying everything was easy, you know that you may not get the same response from them. And because all the experiences that we had in childhood, in our early years, taught us that it was good to earn success, when we step into our business journey, the story starts repeating itself. We start assuming that struggle is the only way and that it's going to be hard. And to be fair, it's also a little bit normal because that's what we commonly hear, that it's going to be hard, that it's going to take time. And that's the way just business is. One of the things that stopped me from stepping out of the survival mode for many years was this fear of triggering people or being rejected for the fact that, for example, I was working way less hours that normally should be done in business. And to be honest, I was terrified of doing things differently. I was afraid that at some point I would disappoint myself, I would not have the results I wanted, and that even would have ended up looking fully for just believing that there's another way of doing things. But deep down, I know that that was my truth. It was just that my body and my soul were just waiting for me to honor the fact that I believe that things could be done differently and that I could still succeed. This is something that can be also even compared to a process of grief. When we start detaching ourselves from being loyal to an identity of our family or of our environment, which was always the struggle and the hustle, it can just feel like a grief to stop identifying with that. And it can bring up a lot of fears of rejection and failure. So what is really important is just to be aware that all those patterns of survival mode that we experience in life are going to be repeated in our business if we don't consciously put some awareness to it. And personally, that's what happened to me. The first months and the first years of my business, I wasn't making that much money. I was sometimes barely making one sale here and there. And I felt that somehow this old story of struggle was just repeating itself in my business. So I really started to question, how can I let ease in when I'm barely making it to the end of the month? How can I switch to things being easy when I cannot even afford to pay my bills? How would I do this differently as an entrepreneur? But since the way I was operating before wasn't working for me, I was pushing harder and not necessarily seeing the results. I started opening myself up to another way maybe of doing things because I had not much to lose. I mean, I had a lot to lose financially, but mentally, since working harder and struggling and hustling wasn't working, I just started to open myself to see if there is another way to do things because I didn't have anything to lose except obviously my inner peace and finances. But let's say that from the mindset point of view, I had tried already the strategy of the hustle and it wasn't working. So I just started to slowly start inviting ease in and doing things differently. And obviously, that's when things started to shift because I was consciously making this leap of getting out of the survival mode, no matter of the financial pressure I was having on one side. I decided to honor what I thought could be a new way of doing business, releasing these old patterns, and slowly things started to shift. That's why what is really hard in business is not running a business in itself or the journey. It's more about challenging our beliefs of how things should be, how to operate differently, and how to act accordingly. What is hard is not just the amount of hours you put in, is the strength that is required to pursue this personal journey that will stretch you to your core and stretch you to open yourself to believe that there is actually another way of doing things. And this is the moment where you start seeing if these old patterns and beliefs of survival are serving you or if you have to let them go to really pursue a different life. So struggling in business is not necessary. We might feel drained. It may happen sometime, but it doesn't mean that it's the only way of doing business. It's just that we were taught that it was the only way. And it's the same thing with money. Struggle for most people is the baseline of the beliefs that it's hard to make money. But the truth is, and I know this can sound triggering, but if that was really true, like the amount of effort that we put in to make money, most of us would be millionaires by now. And it's the same in business. If struggle was the only thing that mattered, most of entrepreneurs would make it. What makes the difference to crack the code is understanding that behind the survival mode, there is actually a deep wound of worthiness. We worry that part of ourselves are not enough, that we are not enough. And so that leads us to constantly push and keep on hustling. And I want you to start bringing some awareness to the fact that this is only a belief, something that we built in our mind. It's not the truth. The more you feel worthy of who you are, what are your gifts, what you bring to the world, the less there is a need for survival mode. You need to understand that you won't get hurt, you won't get punished for opening yourself to the flow, because at your core, you start recognizing that you're actually worthy of things working out, of living a good life. When I started healing the deep wounds I had around not being enough as an entrepreneur, not being enough as an artist, that's when the sales started to come in. My external world hadn't changed, but the way I was seeing myself started to change. And so the external world just started responding. I was seeing myself in a totally different light, and I was slowly letting go of needing to prove myself, of needing to be always in survival mode, to feel worthy and to feel good enough. When you think about the future you want to create, you don't envision a future of constant struggle or hustling. That's not at least what most of us have in our mood boards. We have more vision of living a powerful life where we also get to enjoy ourselves. But by operating constantly in survival mode, we actually create a future where once we reach those business and money goals, we cannot get out of the survival mode. So the key here is that your recipe for success lies in the present moment, not in the future. It lies in how you decide to operate in your business today, when you want to rest, when you invite ease as of today. And if you feel that those things are hard, then it might not be the story of the struggle that needs to be healed. It's more the story of the worthiness that needs to be healed. Worthiness of just living the life of your dreams and the life that you deserve. A life where you feel worthy of receiving, of growing, of having a successful business without being constantly in survival mode. I know that this can bring a lot of resistance for your nervous system and your mind to truly feel safe in the energy of ease and letting go of the survival mode. So I want to give you 3 practical steps that you can start implementing in your business as of today to gently start deconditioning this survival mode and moving into more flow. First one is going to be training your RAS, or reticular activating system, which is actually a part of your brain that is trained to focus on what's important for you. What I want you to do is to train that part of your mind to start seeing where you had results when you were operating from a place of ease. So it can be in any type of shape and form. It can be something small, something big, a sale, a connection, or just an opportunity, someone reaching out to you. The key here is to start building yourself a tracker to show your mind the evidence that good things can happen in your business when you lean into ease. And the more you do that, the more you'll see that it's easier for you to trust yourself, to trust letting go of the hustle mode, of the survival, and of the fear. The second thing you can do is noticing all the fears that come up after you have a small or a big win, because what we want to do is start switching the story from this was just lucky or this was just a one time and it's not going to repeat itself. We want to tell a different story to show your brain that it can be your new normal. For example, for me, I started journaling on what happened after a win. And I noticed that the feelings that were coming up were feelings of shame or this tendency of just downplaying my wins because I didn't want to make it look like it was too easy. And I was noticing how I had this need of saying that it was hard to get to this win so that somehow people could admire me more. And obviously, I reflected on that and I started practicing radical honesty with myself. Yes, things were hard sometimes. I felt lonely, isolated as an entrepreneur. I had a lot of doubts, but not everything was a struggle in my business. There were a lot of people, clients and customers and shops reaching out to me in a way that was easy. So not everything was a struggle. And I started releasing this need of constantly saying that I had earned a connection or a sale just to make myself feel better. That's why journaling on what comes up after you have a win, whether you see that you have a tendency not to celebrate it or downplay it or say that it was hard or not acknowledging the fact that it was easy, can be a really good clue to see where you stand right now with this pattern of hustle and struggle. The third thing you can do is start finding entrepreneurs that you admire, that have this vision that power and ease are not two opposite things, and that these are two forces that can coexist, because you want to show your brain again that there is evidence of really successful people out there. They're doing things differently, so that it gives yourself even more permission to do things differently as well. And by navigating those two concepts of power and ease, you'll understand when it's time to push in your business and when it's time to invite more ease. I want you to know that this is a journey. We cannot rewire our entire DNA in one day, in 1 month. But if you make the choice to make one powerful, energetic shift, this can change the trajectory of your entire business. You have a message that is necessary. You have a voice that is important. But if you want to keep on sharing it with people on the long term and doing it in a sustainable way, you need to somehow let go of the survival mode, because it's not sustainable on the long term. It just acts as a block that is slowing down our growth. So remember that there is no pride in saying that things were hard for you to get there if it costed you your mental or your physical health. And that is when having our own definition of success is going to be important, because before choosing the next business strategy or the next business move, we need to act from a strategy that we know is sustainable for us in the long term. It is not always conditioned to the hustle and the survival. Also, by you embracing this new paradigm of doing things, you are giving permission to other women, maybe your clients, maybe your friends, to see someone that is not only wildly successful, but is also living a fulfilling life. So you ultimately become the catalyst for so much healing and so much growth around you as well. Let me know how this resonates. I know that it can be a lot to question the survival mode and to let it go, especially when we've been operating like that for years. But if you think of inner peace as your compass, you'll start seeing that then your business is not just a business, it's not just numbers. It becomes the home through which you express yourself to the world, and it becomes wildly magnetic. And this is when the results start to show. On that note, I wish you an amazing day, and I really hope to see you in another video very soon.